What you are looking at here may very well be the first video game that I ever played, Rebels. I used to play this from time to time on my father's old Motorola, which, for the people younger than the country of South Sudan, was a device that people used to use to give each other brain cancer back in the day. Nowadays, of course, people get their tumours from other sources. If you couldn't tell, this game is positively atrocious, and is quite possibly the origin of all my problems.
It all started when I was born.
I've noticed that this is the second video that I've started by talking about an obscure space game that I played when I was a kid. What can I say? I cannot remember the games I've played any more than the meals I've eaten. Even so, they have broken me. Despite the obvious flaws of this game, I enjoyed it. I mean, there was nothing else for me to do on those long road trips except hold my breath until I passed out. It got me started, and I wouldn't have played games like Elden Ring, Minecraft, or anything else if I hadn't booted up every once in a while that shitty little shoot-em-up that ran like molasses on a phone older than Kosovo. This game used to mean something to me, and while I cannot stomach it today, hell, I can't even play it anymore, it has a special place in my heart. My point is, while I don't like this game anymore and have moved on, I don't hate it or what it represents. When it was announced that Fallout was getting its own TV show to capitalise on the success of other video game adaptations on the silver screen, I felt yet another piece of me die.
You can actually pinpoint the second when his heart rips in half. And now!
I honestly thought it was a terrible idea. You must understand, I get all of my opinions from old game theory videos I watched when I was 15, and according to one by the late MatPat,
but if you remove the ability to explore it at your own pace, much of the sense of wonder is removed.
This made sense to me. Video games are far too complicated to be faithfully adapted into the other media forms. Of course, some games translate to film and TV better than others. The Last of Us is pretty linear, and The Witcher is based on a book to begin with. But Fallout? It seemed like a disaster, an oncoming car about to hit a group of people. I could scream all I wanted, but they would never get out of the way. Those poor, hapless Fallout fans were going to be hit by the tsunami of a mediocre television spin-off. I couldn't save them. Of course, as my portfolio will tell you, I am often wrong, and a game theory video that I half remembered wasn't enough to jinx the show. It was actually alright. Don't get me wrong, it's not The Sopranos or anything, but it isn't the Antichrist of television that some people treat it as. Of course, its Reddit-style humour and its retconning doesn't endear it to many hardcore fans. And while I think the show does a good job at translating modern Fallout's art style, that doesn't mean it looks good, at least from an artistic point of view. But more on that later. The damage done to the existing history of the franchise is the biggest sin of this show, at least according to the supposed Fallout intelligentsia. Some of this stuff breaks the timeline in avoidable ways, other things completely destroy the lore on the isolated west coast, like an invasive species spreading to an island, and wiping out all of the native animal. I think it would be foolish to exclusively blame Bethesda for these blunders. The TV show may use their IP, but the original creators don't always get to decide what an adaptation does with their work. Although of course, Bethesda is far from the original creator of Fallout. Fallout has historically been split in two, not just in terms of its fan base, but also in its lore. Black Isle, later Obsidian, used the west coast of the continental United States. Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas all take place there. Van Buren would have also been added to this list, but RIP. When Bethesda bought the franchise, they wanted to take it somewhere it hadn't been before, Washington DC. Fallout 3 was followed by 4, then the Earth split in two and Fallout 7666 arose from the Great Chasm and fire blossomed from the trees and the sun turned to ash. It's actually remarkable how clean the geographic line between old and new Fallout was, except for tactics, but shh. I had a pretty humble start to the Fallout series. I didn't start with the first one, New Vegas, or even Fallout 3. No, I started with Shelter, and I used to watch Fallout 4 playthroughs on my phone when I got home from school.
I cast thee out!
Fortunately, I only had to wait a year or so until I could get my hands on Fallout 4 for myself, and when I did, I loved it. It's hard to explain what made me appreciate Fallout 4 so much. I had never played any of Bethesda's other games before. I knew about Skyrim, of course, and I had been warned about Fallout 3 in Sunday school, but Fallout 4 was my first foray into action RPGs, and the first truly open world I had experienced. This was before I had played games like GTA 5 or Red Dead Redemption 2. I was obsessed. I bought posters, I started listening to the game's soundtrack on the school bus, and I even bought a shitty Chinese smartwatch off of my friend for £5 and pretended it was a Pip-Boy. In other words, I was a complete normie, and I scrubbed myself extra hard in the shower to make up for that. I wouldn't get into New Vegas until much later. It was only after I truly started to appreciate its world building and charm. Then I viewed it as the best. Despite the unintuitive controls of the first and second game, learning Chinese seems easier than controlling Fallout 1, I can at least respect these games on a design level. They are able to tell compelling stories and create a lot of atmosphere despite the technical limitations. I currently view Fallout 4 with a sort of frustrated apathy. I feel like there is a lot to enjoy about it, but it never really goes anywhere interesting. Its major conflict is just boring. Take the Institute for example. They seem mysterious and their motivations are unknown, but there is very little payoff and they don't really make any sense as a political entity, compared to Caesar's Legion from Vegas. The Legion may be flawed and doomed, but what do you expect? Their founder is basing his society on a view of ancient Rome from millennia after its destruction. And Edward Sello is not a trained historian, no matter how many old books he reads. The Institute, by contrast, never even tried to convince you that they were right. I have a similar problem with Skyrim and Fallout 3. These games are very fun, but they are not much more than pieces of quick entertainment. Skyrim is especially very good at atmosphere and getting you pumped up for a big adventure, which it absolutely delivers, but compared to games like The Witcher 3 or the Dark Souls franchise, it is inferior. It's just too shallow. I know it's not entirely fair to compare Skyrim to these games, as it is older than many of them, but it keeps getting re-released, and I can't help but compare to what it sold besides, often at a higher price tag. I think the biggest problem with modern Fallout isn't its outdated release graphics or somewhat basic dialogue options.
Lemonade? Please.
It's Bethesda's constant referencing of the past and its human centipede-like approach to the art style of the series. Leonard Boyarsky, the lead artist for the original games, had a vision for a post-apocalyptic retro-futuristic wasteland, but Bethesda hasn't really added anything to that vision. All they did was turn it up to 11. Fallout 3 and New Vegas look fine. I think they are actually pretty faithful to the original visual style, just in a 3D space. But Fallout 4 takes it too far. Everything is just a gross parody of itself. I'm not trying to say it's bad art, but it's just too much and it's distracting. The TV show bases its look off of the modern game. This is what Fallout is now. This is what the newest fans have in their heads when they think of the franchise. It's what I thought of the series when I first played it. Nowadays, Fallout is far too attached to its souped-up art style. I struggle to consider what a Fallout game actually is sometimes. I ask you, what is the difference between Fallout 4, Skyrim and Starfield, other than a few mechanical tweaks and a different coat of paint? I feel like the original games had a more complicated vision, but the newer ones are just out-of-tune echoes of what came before. I saw an interesting video recently claiming that Bethesda thought itself equal to Rockstar in terms of cultural impact. I don't know if that's true, but I do think it raises an interesting point. The Fallout and Elder Scrolls franchises are just Bethesda's equivalent of Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption. Mechanically similar games that have a few technical differences, but fundamentally very similar products with just a different visual style and setting. For example, riding a horse in Red Dead instead of driving, or using guns in Fallout rather than casting spells. The only difference is that Rockstar's games usually represent massive leaps in graphical and mechanical technology, something that you would expect in games with such a long development cycle in between entries. This is just an opinion, but I think Rockstar fans seem to be more at peace with the idea that their beloved franchises aren't going to win any gameplay awards. They are instead just immersive and narrative experiences, like a living TV show or movie. I get the impression that Bethesda's audience is less comfortable with considering the possibility that Fallout 4 and Skyrim aren't very good RPGs, at least in the traditional sense. I knew I was offended when I first heard someone criticize my precious Fallout 4. I think one of the biggest issues that modern Fallout has is the overuse of the same ideas again and again. I think it has resulted in some creative stagnation on Bethesda's part. The real issue isn't that Bethesda won't change and bring in new ideas to Fallout, it's that they can't anymore. The Brotherhood, the Vaults, the Ghouls, these things are what most people think makes this franchise unique. If Bethesda were to change that, a good amount of their player base might not consider it Fallout anymore. They might not stick around for something new. Alright. We've gotten this far into a Fallout video and I still haven't mentioned Todd Howard. That must be some kind of record. This man fascinates me. As an iconic figure in the gaming industry, he is easily up there with the likes of John Carmack, Tim Schafer, Peter Molyneux. For better or worse, he is the face of Bethesda. Every time there is an announcement, interview or presentation, he is the one thrust into the spotlight. Looking at the way he speaks about the games he has worked on, and comparing that to the lesser elements of Fallout 4 or Starfield, you may get the impression that he is simply a corporate mouthpiece, a cynical master of spin who simply does his job and doesn't know or care what a Fallout even is. On the contrary, I think Todd Howard truly does care about the games he's worked on. Look at the man's career, look at how he got started in the industry, the way he talks about his projects and the people around him. This man clearly gives a damn. I don't think Todd Howard saved Fallout. No individual has or will. I think he just brought the series into the 21st century.
get no better.
To be fair, while Fallout 3 has aged poorly, I don't think the franchise was violated when Bethesda bought the rights to it. I hear you asking, if Todd Howard cares so much, then why do people consider his games to be so mediocre? I think he cares a lot about big picture design. He likes video games as a fantasy, and his games certainly succeed in crafting escapist wonders. Explore this wasteland built on the ashes of a retrofuturistic society, or fight a dragon from your basement while your parents debate whether to kick you out or not. He seems like the type of guy who had a great time explaining his ideas to a concept artist and loved seeing them implemented in game. Of course, he didn't work alone, and with Fallout he was standing on the shoulders of giants, but I still believe that he did his job with passion. But I don't think he worried too much about the game beneath the surface. There's a certain YouTuber whom I watch from time to time who had a very succinct way of explaining the flaws and excesses of Death Stranding, and I think the term he used applies here. Todd Howard has gone full George Lucas. He found success with Morrowind, a game he had a major role developing, a game that even the crustiest of Fallout fans consider to be worth at the very least something, and I think he let that success go to his head. Nobody was there to restrain him afterwards, so he ended up making games that looked the part but were ultimately shallow. I think Todd Howard will be remembered, but like many of the greats, his record will not be spotless. Make what you will of Todd Howard, but a lot of the vitriolic hate the man has had flung at him over the years is completely unjustified. I mentioned earlier that the world of Fallout can easily be split in two, the old games on the west coast, the new on the east. The fan base is much the same. It too can be divided into two main groups, or factions, both occupying the same coin. On the one side, and I'm admittedly generalizing here, we have the new fans. These people typically enjoy Fallout 3, 4 and the TV show. For the most part, people in this group don't care too much about New Vegas, the original games or their lore. Fallout to them is enjoyable on a purely aesthetic level. Give them the Brotherhood, Pip-Boys and Nuka-Cola and they'll be happy.
They're like trained seals. Toss them a fish and watch them slap their fins together.
On the other side of this coin is inhabited by the true fans. These people are like the Morlocks in Time Machine. They dwell in the undergrowth, squirming beneath the Eloi, which they call normies. These creatures sit and sharpen their video essays, waiting for the opportunity to pounce on their foes and feast upon them. The Fallout discourse, like that of many large fan bases, is mostly dominated by people who hate the other side and want to tell you that not only are they in the right, but the other side is just gaslighting you and doesn't actually believe what they're saying. I'm not trying to start a war here, but a lot of these video essays are just hate porn. Call me old-fashioned, but why the hell do so many of these people feel the need to spend what is presumably months of their lives editing hours of video about something they despise? Why not spend the time making videos about stuff you actually enjoy and are genuinely passionate about? Some of these people think that everyone who disagrees with them is just disingenuous, but I think that insult can be lobbed right back at them. I think a lot of these videos are only being produced to capitalize on the ever-reliable trend of shitting on modern games. You can passionately dislike something, there's nothing wrong with it, but I get the impression that some of these videos are only produced out of compulsion. The term doomerism gets thrown around a lot, but I think it's perfectly applicable here. Stop hate-watching TV shows or making slop videos about games you detest. You are not solving anything or saying anything new. All you are doing is just picking at a proverbial scab instead of letting it heal. Fallout 3 and 4 are not bad games. I don't give a shit about the retcons or overuse of the Brotherhood. The fact that anyone can pick these games up, get the concept, and enjoy it is a testament to that. But these games do not hold up very well when scrutinized. It took me a long time to realize this, but Bethesda games are like children's books. You don't read your kid Ulysses as they go to sleep, you read them The Cat in the Hat or something similar. There's nothing wrong with starting small and easing yourself into a genre, and at that, Skyrim and Fallout 4 excel. RPGs are daunting. Fallout is daunting. It's nice to have a big, dumb, action-filled adventure to guide you into the world of role-playing games. I think there is this tendency online to constantly compare media and endlessly analyze everything until a game or movie is just boiled down to its most basic elements. But I think that type of criticism often misses the big picture. Fallout 3 was completely necessary. It took a struggling franchise from a bankrupt studio and made it a household name. That came with negative consequences, of course, but it also brought it into the mainstream. Think about it, you probably enjoy Fallout, right? So which one did you start off with? The Cavalier Oblique originals that are harder to learn than Korean? Or one of the more intuitive 3D games? Supposedly, the TV show has brought in a new wave of fans, which is good. Yeah, it's great. Not all of them will appreciate the better, older games of course, but a good percentage of them will. We've just gained new modders, new artists, and most importantly, new fans. These people should be welcomed in and shown the truth, not treated like cattle, scalded and told that they are just tourists and consequently the problem with Fallout. I think moving on is a major part of growing up and evolving as a human. You can't just keep running in circles and hoping that Bethesda will make the game you want. It's never going to happen. I've said before that under Bethesda, Fallout can't change, and I don't think this company's games will ever be more than just introductions to their respective genres. Bethesda has had a rocky few years, from the reputational hit that was Fallout 76, the absolute nothing that was Starfield. I don't think things will get better. Even if The Elder Scrolls 6 is a success at launch or Fallout 5 breaks new records, all they will be doing is fighting against the current, delaying the inevitable. In my previous videos, I talked about how Minecraft relies on its community and how most recent TF2 updates are created by their player base, but I don't think those games even come close to the borderline symbiotic relationship between Bethesda and their audience. They are one of the few AAA developers where jank is not just common, it's expected. People will spend years of their life fixing Elder Scrolls or Fallout games, not to mention all of the modders who take these games and keep them relevant for years after they were released. Bethesda's games are great introductions to their genre, but I also imagine that many game developers got their start by modding Skyrim or Fallout 3. I don't think Fallout 5 or The Elder Scrolls 6 will be revolutionary games. The tide is against Bethesda, and I don't see them innovating.
Don't just stand there, dude! The tide's coming in! Oh! Dude?
But that doesn't mean they won't be fun pieces of entertainment. After all these years, Fallout 4 and Skyrim both retain the magic that got me interested in them to begin with. I will probably play Fallout 5 when it comes out, but I doubt I'll finish it. It won't be made for fans like me. The Fallout community has always been good at getting shit done, whether it's the fan games that are on par with the originals, the massive graphical overhauls or player-made additional content that rivals Bethesda's own DLCs. Fallout needs its community now more than ever. Mainstream Fallout will die one day, maybe soon, and the only way the franchise will survive is if it's safe underground, worked on by its fans as the bombs fall overhead.